Hi, parents. Hi, welcome. I know it might be really late where you are, but it's like on a Sunday night. But I wanted to come on live anyway to have a short conversation with you guys about the naming of parental alienation. There has been a lot of discussions, especially among the to be honest, deniers of parental alienation. There's this distraction. There's always these sort of distractions about whether it should be called parental alienation or it should be called something else. Usually these are the people that actually don't want to recognize the actual problem. And then I have also seen the discussion of how, this should be called shared persecutory delusion, and this particularly is coming from someone that is supposedly is within the community that is a professional within the community that's supposedly helping parents, but in fact is really sitting on high horse and attack all the experts in the field of parental alienation, and in the meanwhile try to channel all the parents toward one particular service provider that's truly not qualified. But anyway, I don't want to go into all that kind of negative stuff. I do want to address the naming, and for anyone that is sort of confused about why we shouldn't be using just the term shared persecutory delusion, I wanted to discuss it here. First of all, the term parental alienation, the reason I think we should stick with some kind of name. The reason we need a naming convention is that there has been so many sort of distraction and parents having trouble getting support when they go to court, when you go to talk to different people, because there's such a divided conversation about what it is. And by the way, let me know if you can hear me or okay, because I'm definitely on a new setup today. So yeah, there's a lot of discussion about why it shouldn't be called this and that. And then in the meanwhile, parents going to court and said, some parents get support and were able to get their children back, some parents are not. And then there's all this inconsistency when you're trying to fight for your children. So it would be really helpful as a whole community and as a system to be able to get some kind of recognition. Thank you so much, Brianna. Thank you. I'm glad. Some kind of unified term that everybody can recognize. Now, the good thing about parental alienation is that there has been a very solid foundation with a lot of research behind it. And if you haven't seen one of a very outstanding work recently by Dr. Jennifer Harmon from Colorado State University, where she did what is called systematic literature survey. So systematic means that you actually thoroughly going in and search for everything in the field. And what her work showed is that there has been a very substantial and solid body of work in parental alienation. And that's why it's helpful to use an unified term, and it would be good if that term is parental alienation because we already have a lot of science behind it. Now, I personally don't really care what name it is, because if we can all agree on the definition, because really, we can call this a pen or we can call this something else. It doesn't matter, because at some point, somebody did come up with a name for it, and we never had a name for it before that, right? So right now, the problem is because there's all this misinformation and all this diversion over, what it should be called. My effort here is I do want to advocate for one unified term that the whole community, the system, everybody out there can recognize. And then hopefully that will help us having more consistency when parents go out there getting help, whether it's through school system, whether it's through the court system, whether it's through, your personal community like family and friends and that. Now, the other thing is, I would never be the one that say to you, you must use parental alienation, because I do understand it depends on your situation, depend on your court case, whatever it is. It's going to be up to you how you wanted to use it. I'm not the one that's going to be pushing that you must use it. What I do want to advocate for is let's try to use a term that is unified so that everyone could as a momentum, as a as a movement, right? I am advocating for that. But in your personal case, please, make your judgment, look at your judge to see, he or she, whether that judge is open to the concept of parental alienation. Look at his or her past cases to see whether that's a person that is open to that concept. If not, please don't use it, because really you need to take care of yourself first. I would never be the one that forcing you or pushing for you to use that term. Now, even when you use a different term, though, I do encourage that you look into the literature behind it, because you can still demonstrate the same thing without using the term parental alienation. And so, for example, the 5-factor model, whether you wanted to use the term parental alienation or not, if you structure your evidence using the 5-factor model, it can still, even if for someone that doesn't understand parental alienation, even for someone that doesn't believe in that term, but if you structure the evidence the same way, it's very hard for anybody to deny that there's a problem here, and it's still going to be helpful for you to be able to get your children back if you're fighting in court. So just to clarify, one is that I would like to have an unified term as a community. And this is why we're working to advocate for parental alienation to be added into the DSM, because that will help us getting a unified term, but also having the diagnosis and treatment, things like that, for as a community, so that, when you go out there to mental health professional, I can actually get consistent help. And then the same with going to court or going to legislation. All of that is important, right? And that's why I'm asking for the community to help support in adding parental alienation into the DSM. And then, so the other things about the term shared delusion, persecutory delusion. Let's talk about that. Now, I wanted to show you guys what. And Rebecca, hi Raya, thank you so much. I saw the question. Rebecca said, I believe we should address all alienation, grandparent, etc. Alienation is all damaging, and on the name check with what World Health Organization calls it, it is an intentional organization. It's an international organization. Okay, so World Health Organization, actually, that's a whole another topic, and there's a lot of stuff behind the scene, and I think I will, if I don't forget, in the near future, I would like to do a separate session that talks specifically about World Health Organization. But right now, I wanted to share with you guys about the shared delusional persecutory delusion. So let me just show you guys what's in the DSM. Okay, so this is what is in the DSM. So this is a copy of the DSM. So when you search for persecutory delusion, this is what you come up with. Okay, persecutory delusion. Okay, so first of all, delusion are fixed beliefs that are not amenable to change in light of conflicting evidence, and their content may include a variety of themes, including persecutory and etc. So persecutory delusions is a belief that one is going to be harmed, harassed, or so forth by an individual, organization, and other group are most common. Okay, so let's find some other clarification of it. Okay, so another one here, follow on from, again, we are still on the DSM, where it said, individuals with persecutory delusions are often resentful and angry and may resort to violence against those they believe are hurting them, right? Okay, so it's still the same kind of content, the next ones, for example, simple persecutory delusions in the context of major neurocognitive disorder would be diagnosed as a major neurocognitive disorder with behavioral disturbance, etc. So anyway, that's the definition of persecutory delusion. Now, trying to use the term share persecutory delusion, first of all, share implying that both the child and the alienator believe in the same thing, like having the same delusion. We'll talk about that in a minute. The next item is persecutory delusion. persecutory delusion is like we just saw, is when someone believes that somebody else is going to harm or hurt or harass them, right? So in some cases, many of the parental alienation cases, there's a situation where, let's just talk about the child, where the child has the delusion that the targeted parent can be harmful, can be hurtful, like that the targeted parents may hurt them, may be violent to them, may be harmful to them. But not all cases. We have interviewed so many adult children of parental alienation, and many of the children know that the targeted parent would never hurt or harm them. There are many cases of parental alienation where the situation is actually where the alienator said to the children that the target parent abandons them. So it's not harm or hurt, it's just simply that the target parent don't care, that abandoned them and just left. That's actually my situation. I never once think that my dad is going to come and hurt or harm me. I was never threatened. I never had that delusion. What I had was that he was a bad person and that he abandoned me. Okay, so that does not apply to my case. That doesn't apply to a lot of people in this case. Okay, another item is that let's just say if you wanted to apply that term to the target, to the alienator, it also doesn't apply because the alienator, many of the alienators know very well that the target parents are not harmful. We even interview an alienator, like we have interviewed reform alienator who said, yeah, I knew very well that he's a good guy. I still did it anyway because I like to win, and I knew I could get away with it. So many alienators knew very well that the targeted parent is not harmful, is not violent, is not scary, is never going to harm and harass them. They still create this thing anyway. So there's no delusion in the alienator part. And this is why persecutory delusion sometimes doesn't apply to the alienator, sometimes doesn't apply to the child, sometimes doesn't apply to neither of those. And then let alone the term share on top of that. Share implying that both of them have that delusion. No, a lot of cases they don't. And then we also have situation where when we interview adult children, they said, yeah, the target parent say, the alienators say that the target parent is going to come and harm them and hurt them. And I knew that my mom or my dad, like my target parent, would never come and hurt me, but I still reject them anyway because I have to perform, right? So they do not have this delusion whatsoever, but they still were alienated. So this is why the term persecutory delusion does not apply to all cases of parental alienation, and definitely the term share persecutory delusion do not apply to all the cases of parental alienation. Okay, so then there's other comment here. For example, Alicia said the World Health Organization calls it caregiver-child relationship problem. Now that term is a little bit broad because, right? Because it can also apply to, let's say you have parents, normal marriage, but let's not use the term normal, that doesn't work. Parents that is still in a relationship or not in a relationship, right? And then they abuse the child. They simply abuse, there's no alienation going on. So the term caregiver-child relationship problem is too broad. It covers that and it covers everything else as well. So it's too broad. So you can't just say, oh, it's the same thing. This is why, for example, we don't just use the term abuse. You break it down and there's sexual abuse, there's physical abuse, there's psychological abuse. So the treatment for each of those are different. And this is why it's important to go into specifics. So if you go on to something that's too broad, you then still have to go down and define it more clearly. And so this is why the term parental alienation, I think, is the most suitable term. I'm not, like I said, I really do not care whatever it is, but let's have an unified term. The reason I'm advocating for the term parental alienation is because the definition fit, and then not only that, there's a whole body of scientific research behind this. And by the way, the guy that is pushing for everyone to use the term persecutory delusion is a guy that never published any peer-reviewed work properly. He sit there and he attacked all the scientific work out there who've gone through and published in very reputable scientific journals, and then he attacks them, and yet somehow parents still buying into this. It's very frustrating. But anyway, enough with that. Okay, I do see, for example, Rebecca talked about alienation through delusional force. I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure that if that's entirely a good term. Okay, Alessandra said perform is what they do. Exactly. The children are caught in the middle. They really had to do what they have to do to survive. Sometimes they know it, like literally know it. Sometimes they know it intuitively. Sometimes it's sort of a little bit deeper and they may not see it straight away, and it may take time for them to see it. But most of the time children do know. So anyway, I just wanted to go in and address this term. There's people that try to attack me on different places and attack the community because of this term. I've seen, and it's really sad. Not that it bothered me, because what's important to me is our community, the parents get the help that they need. So that's what is important to me. Like, you guys here are important to me. I'm not so worried about the people out there, as long as what they do doesn't impact you. And unfortunately, this spread of misinformation, this attack of the experts out there, that is actually harmful for parents. And this is why I wanted to speak up on this. So anyway, I know it's late on a Sunday night. I hope you guys had a great weekend. And I will come back and touch other topics. Like I said, I do have a lot to say about World Health Organization, and I have information that I want to share with you guys. But I will do that on another time. So have a great week ahead. I've been traveling, so I really haven't been responding to a lot of people. I haven't been really following up and haven't really been watching all this. Like I got a lot of messages and things. Claudia, thank you so much. But anyway, I can't promise that I can look at things, because I'm going to still continue to travel. So it's going to be a while. Thank you so much, Rhea. Really, no, thank you for what you do. Rhea has been amazing. She's a great advocate as well. Brianna, thank you so much. So have a good night, you guys. Bye.